one of Hollywood's most beloved stars, once a symbol of charm and sophistication, now finds himself caught in a storm so fierce that it threatens the very foundation of his career. George Clooney is no longer the untouchable icon he once was. He's fighting for professional survival, facing rejection, backlash, and an industry that seems ready to move on without him. This isn't just a story about an actor experiencing a career slump. It's a reflection of Hollywood's ever-changing landscape, where the same spotlight that once elevated a star can just as quickly become an unforgiving glare of public scrutiny. This isn't just about Clooney. It's about how fortunes in Hollywood can shift overnight. If the industry were a high school cafeteria, Clooney has gone from sitting at the popular table to eating alone in the janitor's closet. The early months of 2025 haven't just been rough for him. They've been a complete disaster. This isn't a midlife crisis. It's a full-blown career meltdown. George Clooney, once a dominant force in Hollywood, is now desperately trying to salvage his career. The reason? The year 2024 marked an unprecedented wave of backlash against him, a catastrophic PR disaster of epic proportions. If handling controversy were an Olympic sport, Clooney would have swept the podium with gold, silver, and bronze. At the center of this turmoil is his frantic attempt to restore his reputation. It all started with a politically charged advertisement that didn't just miss the mark, it completely backfired. What should have been a simple endorsement turned into a PR nightmare. In an instant, Clooney went from being a universally adored figure to a divisive one, quicker than anyone could say, maybe he should have stayed quiet. Given his decades in the industry, one would assume Clooney had a solid crisis management strategy in place. Instead, his attempts to control the damage have been chaotic, resembling someone blindly throwing spaghetti at a wall, hoping something sticks. Unfortunately for him, nothing has. His apologies have been awkward at best and humiliating at worst, much like a disastrous reality show audition where the contestant is convinced they're succeeding but clearly aren't. One of his most desperate attempts to rehabilitate his image was his request to appear on Real Time with Bill Maher. Maher's show isn't exactly a haven for heartfelt confessions, yet Clooney's team seemed to believe it was the perfect platform for his public apology. The goal was simple: apologize, explain his side of the story, and remind audiences why they once admired him. However, HBO executives weren't convinced. At first, Maher didn't outright reject the idea. In fact, sources suggest he was open to it, until it became obvious that Clooney wasn't there for an honest conversation. Instead, it was all about damage control, and if there's one thing Maher can't stand, it's someone using his show for reputation management. Once that became clear, Maher reportedly told HBO he wasn't interested, shutting the door on Clooney's attempt at redemption. But Clooney's team didn't back down. They returned not once, not twice, but 3 times, pleading for a chance to be on Real Time. What started as a simple rejection escalated into outright frustration. By the 3rd request, Maher had had enough. He allegedly instructed HBO executives to end the discussion entirely, burning yet another bridge in the process. As if the HBO setback wasn't damaging enough, Clooney also attempted to secure a spot on The View. A daytime talk show might have seemed like a safer option, but even there, he found no luck. Host Sunny Hostin reportedly refused to have Clooney on the show, fearing that his presence would further hurt their already struggling ratings. Adding to the controversy, Clooney wrote an op-ed in the New York Times where he publicly questioned President Biden's ability to continue in office after seeing him at a recent fundraiser. The piece only fueled further debate, ensuring that Clooney's name remained at the center of controversy rather than redemption. Could George Clooney not have said it in person? Instead, he resorted to writing an op-ed piece. Using whatever little platform I have to undermine and weaken our commander-in-chief, the one person standing between Donald Trump and the White House, is something I refuse to do. This wasn't just a rejection, it was a public slap in the face. For someone like Clooney, who has long been treated as Hollywood royalty, being turned down by a daytime talk show is the equivalent of being told you're not even worthy of a free sample at Costco. Utterly humiliating. At the core of this entire mess is Clooney's inability to read the room. Hollywood has always been unpredictable, but in recent years, its volatility has reached unprecedented levels. Every action he takes is scrutinized under a microscope, and instead of stepping back to reassess, he keeps doubling down on poor decisions. Take his latest politically charged commercial, for example. The ad wasn't just controversial, it was deeply divisive, to the point that even the most seasoned PR professionals struggled to contain the fallout. The backlash was swift and intense, with social media erupting in criticism. Clooney attempted to apologize, but his response came across as insincere, only adding more fuel to the fire. Then there's his public image. For years, Clooney was the epitome of Hollywood charm, a modern-day Cary Grant with a dash of activism. However, by 2025, that charm has begun to feel more like arrogance, and his activism has been dismissed as performative. The public no longer buys into the persona he's selling, and the impact is undeniable. With major platforms like HBO and The View shutting their doors on him, his options are rapidly diminishing. Reports suggest that Clooney's team is now exploring alternative media outlets, including The Howard Stern Show. But that's a risky move. Stern is known for his unfiltered and no-nonsense approach, and there's no guarantee he'll be sympathetic to Clooney's situation. In fact, if Clooney isn't careful, an appearance on Stern's show could backfire in spectacular fashion. Stern has openly declared himself woke as hell, and there's a reason for that. Over the years, he's built a reputation for being provocative and pushing boundaries, yet now he aligns himself with the most extreme positions of the left. Why? Because in Hollywood, that's the ultimate shield. It provides immunity. He may be transgressive when it comes to certain topics, but politically, he toes the progressive line without question. Meanwhile, Hollywood itself is in turmoil. Studios are slashing budgets, and actors, directors, and writers are scrambling to keep their careers afloat. In this environment, someone as controversial as Clooney isn't exactly a top priority. Major studios are reportedly offering him only low-budget projects, a stark contrast to the blockbuster films he once led. Clooney's downfall is just one part of a bigger shift in the industry. Traditional platforms like The View and Real Time are more focused on protecting their own reputations than standing behind once beloved but now divisive figures. This shift has allowed independent platforms and podcasts to rise in influence. Shows like The Joe Rogan Experience are gaining more traction as audiences turn away from mainstream Hollywood content. As for Clooney, his future remains uncertain. Whether he can stage a comeback, or if this marks the end of his reign in Hollywood, is yet to be seen. But one thing is certain, this is far more than just a rough patch. It's a full-blown career crisis. What do you think? Is this the end for George Clooney, or does he still have a shot at redemption?